getting generational wealth, or more specifically though, pursuing it even. And you said ego, which is like a facet of the mind, how you think. My answer would also be kind of like realization and mindset, which is like one, realizing that you can be a part of this group of people too. I think a lot of people, it's not talked about, and this is where I would rebel against. It's like maybe overrated, or it's only for a certain population of people.
Yo, B, let's go.
You may have seen the clip and maybe heard word of mouth, yet another podcast. Man, what could it be about? Is it truth or opinion? A couple of contradictions. We're here to challenge tradition and twist your vision. So we set on a mission to bring you rebel wisdom.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Rebel Wisdom. We're excited as always. I'm Julian, here with my boy B. And this week, we are going to speak on generational wealth. Great topic. We love to dive into the finances best we can here and there. So we're going to get into it. Make sure my mic's good. So, on this topic, the first thing that comes to mind is just to see kind of how people speak around generational wealth. Like, is it a prevalent topic? I've been fortunate, a lot of me and my friends at our age, again, just like kind of getting into our 30s good, is a topic I think we've consciously been trying to have amongst our friends and in our circles. Like, I know me and you, B, have talked about it quite a bit of times. And even if, right, like we're still young, like generational wealth is very much a lineage thing. It's something we're going to build our entire lives and extend beyond us. But like many things, oftentimes the biggest thing is starting. So like, even if that's like not moving any money, but just the mindset and the conversation, like, what does it look like? How do I get started? What do I want to have at the end of my life? And kind of projecting out a little bit. I think it starts with these conversations, right? So, that's what we're here to provide. Speak on it, maybe rebel some things here and there as we do. But it's really like, I'm interested to like kind of like get this conversation going and seeing, what prevents people from starting it or doing some of these things that I'm mentioning,
I have so I go into, I travel for my work from time to time, right? And then I'll work with people, at the site that I'm traveling to, and this one particular guy, he's 28, and I'm 28, and we're just talking about money and like what he wants to do, and he was talking about how he wants to buy this big plot of land south of Dallas, Texas, and then like that's one of his, like money goals that he's saving up for. And so we just start talking about money and a lot of topics around money. And one of the things that of course came up was the topic of generational wealth.
Yeah,
and I just like what you said, similar to your group. I think I'm a little diluted. My views are a little limited, I think, because I don't know what the general narrative around generational wealth is. Because at least in my friend group, we always talk about it like, okay, that's, general wealth is typically a good thing.
Right.
I don't think no one's saying it's a bad thing, but talking to the guy in particular, it kind of opened up my eyes a little bit, because he was like, I do not care one bit about generational wealth. I'm just trying to get money, and then I'm just trying to do this thing with the money, and I'll be happy. So I'm just thinking I don't know where that take is within like our society and culture, but I would like to think that's more people align to him more than they will align to me, I guess.
Okay. And that's interesting too, because right, like everybody, like building generational wealth isn't a requirement. So for me, right, I think part of it ties into my background. I have strong family ties. I'm very close with my family, and there's somewhat of an essence of like lineage. So my dad has two brothers, and they each have at least one son, and then my dad's oldest brother has a daughter as well, all of which are my cousins. But I don't know, I just get a sense of like my legacy and like wanting to pass something down beyond my blood, like my physical bloodline and my name. And I look at that in the means of finances, capital, assets, etc. So for me, it's like it manifests into money, but it's so much of a deeper meaning. Like if this is the trajectory of the Turner legacy, which is my last 10, like it, well, let's say this, it's probably not that steep, like a slight incline. And then at the span of that incline, what is my life? I just like, by the time I die, I want it to be at an angle steeper than, and yes, I can pass on lessons. Yes, I can be a good example while I'm alive to my kids, grandkids when I have them. But the only like tangible thing I can pass on is, again, like the finances, capital, assets, etc. So for me, that's important and again, people don't have to share this outlook. This is just very personal to me, but that's why it's important to me to kind of start generational wealth and try to change the trajectory of my lineage. But I think what we can get into is, I think there are people that have a similar sentiment or that want to do something, but don't or believe they can't. And that's something I would like for us to discuss. Kind of like, hey, why are people not, confident in themselves or believe they can? And I think there's a multitude of reasons why.
Yeah.
But it's not required, or I understand that everybody doesn't share that. So that's interesting that you say that.
Like I think I have I don't have the best views. Like I'm about to explain it, but when you hear it, it's not going to be all glamorous and nice and, just shining lights everywhere. But I'm just thinking I come from a very middle class family.
Yeah.
Very, very typical that I'm sure a lot of people can relate to me on. And both of my parents, like, everyone was just hard working people, great people. And I mean, there's money here and there, but it's not a tremendous amount of like crazy money. Yeah, they might have a nice house, but like they're not, spending crazy amounts of money. But then I'm just looking at that. I'm like, I could be the single person in my family tree that can change the outcomes for many generations to come in the later, right? So that sounds kind of bad because I say, I can sacrifice just me. But I feel like to build generational wealth, you need to do something above average. And that's not too hard to do, I don't think. Right? Because if the average was, they have $4,000 in credit card, or I don't know what the exact number is. Just not by you not having any debt, that already sets you ahead. And then you can start investing, and then I know everyone wants to get that money quick tomorrow.
Yeah.
But, like literally $500 a month over a course of 40 years, that adds to a lot of money, even with inflation accounted for in the future. So I don't think if you don't have the crazy amount of income to support it or the crazy skill to get these crazy returns, like you just got to play the time game. And I think it's okay. Time just adds more stability and safety, and that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I do agree with what I'm just thinking on what you said about like having to do more than average, like the average person, and yeah, I would tend to agree, like do more or just become very skilled in one particular thing. Which at that point, if you're skilled to the level that I'm referencing, you've probably put in above average work or whatever to get to that point. So yeah, I think I'm gonna have to agree with that. So now to take it back, like if we had to peel it all the way back, like, all right, I'm somebody maybe out of high school or whatever. And I'm not saying this. My goal here isn't to lay out a blueprint of how to establish generational wealth. I am not there yet. I don't have these answers. But if I'm just somebody thinking like, what is maybe the most common barrier or something I see that maybe prevents people from even getting their foot wet and like kind of dipping their toes in the conversation of this, I don't know, might be like financial literacy, maybe.
Yeah, I'm thinking the very first thing to get started is to dream. Like it sounds, the typical sales gimmick is like, hey, you got to sell the dream.
Yeah.
But that's what you need to get started. And it doesn't have to be super expensive. Like for me, I bought Rich Dad Poor Dad and I read it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying to go read that book. It is a great book.
Yeah.
But it gave me the dream to, a goal to achieve,
Oh.
the direction to, a direction to go, I guess, aim for.
Yes. Direction.
So that's how and you can teach everyone these actual, financial education, just like these budgeting skills, investment skills, whatever you can teach them, whatever. But then if they don't have that motivation inside them, that dream to chase for, like, I don't think it's gonna resonate with them.
Dude, I love where you took that. I think it you're right. It starts with a thought, a vision, a dream, and you can't have that until you're exposed to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna dig on this exposure piece a little bit. And since you brought up Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is funny, you said I'm not gonna tell you to go read. Pretty sure in other episodes you told people to go read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it's funny, we were talking about it before. I know it's one of your favorite books. I've also read it. I can attest. Pretty good read. But I know B has a personal like testimonial story that like it kind of shifted your whole mindset, which is amazing.
Yeah. But it doesn't have to be Rich Dad. It can be
right.
It can be anything,
right.
But you need that spark, the fire, right?
Right. So, on the topic of books and average, I looked up quickly like the average amount of books the American reads per year, and it says 12, and then it breaks into.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is more than I was expecting.
Dude.
Which is crazy.
No way.
Hey, I typed in what are the average amount of books a person reads in a year. It's not to America or anything. 12 was the first line. The quick thing I got. I'm not gonna fight it. We'll roll with it. Which is funny because my goal is to read 12 books a year. Which again, it's all personal. I'm not used to reading 12 books a year, so like this is the first year I put a reading goal into place. So hopefully next year I'll increase it. But I would start there. So right. So you got your vision. I say all that to say from reading, that's a great place to start. Doesn't have to be Rich Dad Poor Dad. You can get that exposure just to even hear the words generational wealth. Some people have never heard that phrase, right? Like it's as simple as that, getting exposed to something, and then it's put in a conversation, then it's putting it into context. Then you might hear about, read about, talk to someone that's achieved it or in the process of achieving. And that's why I love that you said that, because I think it is literally starts with that thought or that planting the seed of dreaming. So, dude, well said. And I want to elaborate on that, right? So speaking for a member of the Black community, I don't think that I'm very confident that this is not just a well talked about topic, just like growing up, right? Like growing up, I don't hear it too much, or maybe even about finances a whole lot. And we've talked in another episode about education, specifically how maybe like throwing out some ideas that things we wish maybe were taught in school.
Mm.
You hear about finances a whole lot, at least in my school, a whole lot. But it could be as much as that within your community, the demographic that surrounds you, like fostering conversations within that realm. I know maybe if it's not generational wealth at first, like when I have kids within our household, I want to have financial discussions and just plant seeds, even if I'm not telling them things like, hey, why don't you go look this up or read about this, or I may give them books to read and be like, hey, we'll have a conversation about this chapter by chapter. However, whatever it looks like, I think as a community, for Black Americans, that is one thing that I would like to see shift, and not just, we're often idolized as like the athletes and the whatever, and people need to know that you can make it, you can acquire wealth and whatever that looks like for you without being these anomalies in the entertainment industry, you know what I mean? And I don't know if there's any similar strands or opposing strands that you see within like the Japanese community or Japanese Americans. But yeah, I had to make note of that, I mean, I think financial conversations can be held more regardless, but especially in the Black community, and that speaks to that exposure piece. Yeah.
That's right. I mean, when you brought up Japan, so I'm just, my thoughts on that is, Japan's a free country, United States a free country,
right?
But like people that live in the United States, like they don't. I don't know. I think they know, but just to shed a light on it, right? And then I'm comparing United States and Japan, like we're like top of the free countries, and you look at other people from other countries, they may not be as fortunate as people living in free countries to pursue even what we were talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the difference between the United States and Japan, even though money is both taboo in both languages and culture, I think it's generally more accepted in American culture that we can talk about money and generational wealth and just having conversation openly on these subjects.
Right.
If I were talking the same thing in Japanese culture, even if people agree or disagree the same, just like they would here, like they would be doing so in like secretively. Like if we were talking online, like there might be the internet person that just like kind of tune it in because we don't talk about this. We don't talk about like anything money, to be honest.
What are your thoughts on that, or why do you think that is?
I mean, I don't know.
That's
because America, at least in American culture, I hear a lot of people saying, "Hey, I want to pass down something to my kids."
Yeah,
and I think that's great because you're ultimately doing something for others, which I think, regardless of the context, I think is a great thing to do.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying, I don't want to say Japanese people, they don't want to give. I think they give a lot to their kids and whatnot, but I don't know. It's just the escape from the rat race, I guess, in Japanese side, it's often not talked about. You just kind of worked until, a lot later than the United States.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
But a lot of people just work until they die. And sadly, I don't even say sadly because we say that as, oh, like, I don't want to do that. But they enjoy it. It gives them a purpose. And like my great grandma, she passed away last year. She was 98. And that until she so she tripped and then she broke her rib.
Yeah.
She couldn't breathe. And then she passed away. But until then, even though her body was, not in the best shape, she was still cooking every single day. She was cleaning every single day. She'll get up. Yeah. Which, even though she was working, she was very happy doing it.
Which is
so, I think that's
okay.
A little tangent, but difference between, people are fortunate to live in the United States. How about that?
Yeah, definitely. And right, there's negatives to it, but on the in total, I think, right, land of the free, you have more opportunities than other places for sure. And it's interesting, right? So with that concept of working your whole life, I think you can still have something to pass down, or even.
I think they do. They just don't talk about it.
Yeah. Okay.
They just don't talk about it, I guess.
Okay. I won't look too deep into it. Yeah. Okay. But even that, not talking about it, I think there's something to be said for that, because like we're talking, like staying on theme of the exposure piece, I think a role model and having somebody that you can, it's one thing to see it, but having something to pass down is usually something you're setting up, maybe a trust or something in the back. Like you can't necessarily see somebody do that. Like it has to be explained to you or taught or again heard or read about. So I think it's important for these role models to be, because I think that people exist. It's just whether we know about them or people have access to them, right? So going back to if there's like underprivileged communities, I think there's a lack of one conversation or the role models, and it just perpetuates this cycle of not seeing anybody that can do it or that does it in both cases. So then it's like, okay, maybe like I don't think this is achievable for me if you even know about it because you haven't heard about it, and it's kind of this negative spiral. So I'd love to see, we're on the conversely, if you have like upper middle class and up, where these conversations may be being had, and people are more exposed to these things, and now you have people consciously, I don't know, pursuing something that they can pass down. Now it starts to create that divide, which is maybe the like perpetuates the wealth gap, which is something we've referenced before. Not to get too far off topic, but yeah, man, I just had I think that exposure is so key, and I just love how you said, honestly, it starts with a thought or a dream. Like,
I think, role models, that's a huge thing. I think, because in my family, I never had my parents, they mean well, right? So they'll teach me what they know, but I never had like a money guy that can talk about stocks, real estate, maybe crypto, personal finance,
Yeah.
just thoughts on debt. Like I didn't have
Yeah.
people that I can just go to and just, have a thoughtful conversation and what their take
Right.
is, because I want to hear that wisdom, right?
Right.
I want them to offer me something that they learned over living it for 30, 40, 50 years. I never had that. And I don't think a lot of people do, right?
Right.
I think you're more on the fortunate side if you do. So I naturally looked on the authors I was reading, like they'll be my role models. And then these YouTubers, there's so much noise out there in today's
Yeah.
like fast changing world.
Right.
But I think it's not as hard to find these, I guess, finance or just life overall role models online. And they don't need to know you. You just need to know them. And
What's it? Yeah, I agree. Now, like you said, the noise, it may be hard to decipher through it all, but I think the volume is out there for little to no cost. Obviously, it costs to have a device that can play YouTube or whatever, but once you have that barrier, you don't even have to have an account. Like, you can just watch videos. Or like you said, books are little or to nothing if you maybe go to the library or something, where you can meet these role models through literature. Again, I think that's very cool and enlightening. On the flip side, though, which you kind of touched on, there's the misinformation piece as well, which once you do start getting access or you're exposed to these circles or these groups or online, now you have to figure out, like, decipher, all right, what's actionable, what's valid, really navigate that, which is a whole nother, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
and the best thing, my current thoughts and opinions of 28-year-old 2024, I think for that Dave Ramsey might be the go-to.
yeah, but I mean, he's one,
but what he teaches,
like the most like you're just saying he's a safe option that of something that's like verifiable.
Like if you like with misinformation, right? There people can tell you so much, hey, do this, do that.
Yeah.
And I don't like one size fits all answers. I really don't.
Which I feel like Dave Ramsey, I mean, I don't listen to him a lot. I know some of his like larger principles.
So his one size fits all answer doesn't cover everyone, but I think in this case it covers the majority of the people that are hearing about building wealth for the first time. Because I mean, what he teaches, it's not the later stages in what he teaches that people agree or disagree with. But no one's disagreeing that, hey, you shouldn't have credit card debt. Everyone says, hey, stop buying dumb things on your credit card.
Right.
We can all agree on. And then, hey, like most 99% of people say, hey, invest in your 401k with your employer match. That's like a given, right? And then what we talk about after, that's up for debate. But for people that's getting started, who to follow, like Dave Ramsey might be good. Follow his steps. And then later on, once you're feeling comfortable, then you can explore different people for different investment strategies, I think.
Okay. So it sounds like you're saying Dave Ramsey is a good starter kit. Like if you're just trying to figure out just get in the conversations maybe. Or get the basics. Okay. Sure. I can't firmly deny that again. I'm not an avid listener of him, but I like I said, I know some of his principles, but no, that's good. That's a good recommendation. If somebody's out there like, what do I like? Who do I listen to? I think that's dope. Yeah, that's good. Again, generational wealth, right, implies long term, possibly longer than your lifespan. And I think misinformation could be a distractor, right? Like maybe a not subconscious, like you don't even realize it's distracted because like, you're pursuing information and you don't even know you're getting distracted because you're just learning and you're digesting information. I think another distractor could be, which we talked about in another episode, like all of these like fishing line bait to like get money fast, get rich quick schemes as well. So I think in this pursuit, embedded in financial literacy, I mean, it's really just a learning process. It's kind of like going to school. Like you have to learn to learn. You almost have to learn, again, you start to narrow down who first off, once you have that dream and that vision, you start tailoring your plan to you. Okay, who do I listen to? And then also like what to avoid. Because again, if the underlying principle is to make money, I think humans are very much try to take the path of least resistance. It's gonna be like, okay, here's an opportunity to get this quick. Like, let me get on it. And that's probably like the worst things you could do.
Yeah, it's like once you get past the dream stage, and now you believe in the cause of making, I was like, hey, I'm gonna start building generational wealth. At that point, you can get away from all the sales gimmicky stuff. You're gonna find your niche. Everyone's gonna find their niche, and then your niche might be working a W-2 until you retire. But guess what? If you do things properly, like even a W-2 employee, they can have crazy amounts of wealth at the end of their career that you can pass down to later generations, right? Because they say most millionaires are made through real estate, and also majority of millionaires are employees. You would think
you got it, yeah.
Like you look at the number, maybe the chances of becoming a millionaire might be higher on a CEO type, like a founder type, but then for a pure number of millionaires around, that's going to be employees. And for the most part, they're going to be passing down their, assets to the next generation. Maybe it skips a generation, but.
Okay. How would it skip a generation?
Or like if
let's say they
on,
to trust, like,
and then your kids are doing fine, but then you pass it on to your great,
and
there's or something like that.
I know there's stuff you can set up to specifically put it to your grandchild's name and stuff like that. Yeah. Okay. That's very true.
Why? Yeah. But once you get past the dream stage, I think there are some key principles that you can probably follow. And I don't know everything, but I know some. Like one of the things is, hey, don't stay out of consumer debt. And no one's arguing against that. Just stop buying dumb stuff. Just stop trying to look cool.
Say, hey, what was dumb to you might not be dumb to other people. I feel like
okay, sure. Okay, that's a good. Okay, then maybe. Okay, sure. That you have a valid point. So
I feel like
budgeting.
There we go.
To only maybe 10% of your take-home pay is spent for whatever dirty little secrets that you have. But majority of it should be going to the necessities you have and your investments.
Right.
And yeah, there's so many budgeting principles that I don't follow them, but then I like the idea behind them. Like I heard one recently. It's like the 50-50. Basically, you take what you get and you divide it in half.
Okay.
And then your 50% should be spent like there's no tomorrow. So, well, you still need to pay for your necessities, right?
Yeah.
But then you gotta pay for the necessities, and then from the remainder of the 50%, you spend it like no other. Like there's no tomorrow. That's for your entertainment, your pleasures, whatever.
What?
Right? Yeah.
I just.
But the other 50% should be invested.
Oh, okay. Now I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So paying for your necessities, then you have the leftover. Of the leftover, 50% of that you spend like there's no tomorrow, and then
50. Yeah, that's a good.
Got it.
That's a really good take. And then I'm trying to follow into like the 50% of overall is going to be spent on necessities and having fun, I guess. And the other 50% of total take-home pay that can be invested into, cash, stocks, real estate, crypto, whatever your method is. And that's a really powerful one, and it's gonna be hard. It's hard to do.
Yeah.
Because if someone's taking in like $5,000, that's saying you gotta live on 25. But that's on the extreme side, right?
Yeah. I was gonna say not everybody has the luxury to do this, so it's very much dependent on your situation.
Yeah. But I don't on the other side, right? So that's extreme. That's extreme on one end. Let's look at the other end of the spectrum. People that's saying, hey, like I don't have any money to invest. Then there's a problem behind that, right? And I don't think it's an income problem for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
If you're able-bodied, working a full-time job, trying to pursue higher paying jobs, I don't think it's an income problem. With those,
Caveats, yeah.
caveats that are mentioned, and maybe you're on PO and maybe you're spending so much money on the interest on the debt you have.
Right.
Okay, then maybe you go pick up side jobs in the weekends to go pay that off. Or you're barely scraping by, like your income matches your needs.
Mm-hmm.
Then okay, then you work longer hours, or again get to the side hustle so you can invest $300 a month. Right? That's easy to do from these side hustles, and you're going to be doing them for a while. But then
Hopefully, yep.
look at it on the other end, you're gonna have like you said, you're gonna have like a legacy for your family, which I think is so cool. Like when people physically die, but then I don't think, or there's a quote, it's like people physically die, but then they fully die once they start mentioning your name or something like that.
Once they stop mentioning your name.
Yeah, once they stop mentioning your name.
Yeah.
But then, would it be so cool? It's like, hey, like your great grandfather, he's not alive. Obviously, he died 50 years ago, but
yeah,
we have what we have today because of him.
man, what?
That's like a great.
I would be in my grave just
Yeah,
smiling, happy. Yeah.
yeah.
And kind of to elaborate on what you're saying. Again, this doesn't have to be everybody's goal, but it also doesn't have to be an extreme amount. If you can work a life and have something to pass down, that a lot of people, you start, like, you go to college, you have nothing. Like, your parents give you the bare necessities. They keep a roof over your head, they keep you fed, they keep you clothed, but you don't really have any cushion to like jumpstart life with or anything. Nobody's helping you with college. If you are able to just give a little something to the next generation, and they just have a little more starting with you did, maybe that gets them through college a little more comfortably, and they don't start out at a bigger negative or in as much debt when they enter the workforce. Or you can give them something a little more substantial, and it kind of gives them something that they can, I don't know, explore themselves a little more because they have a little cushion. In whatever way it manifests, I think, like, it's not like it has to be millions or nothing.
Yeah,
It's, you know what I mean? Which I feel like is kind of even when I think generational wealth, I think of passing on just masses of money.
Imagine
it's something. It just,
imagine you do this, you pass
it's
on to your kids,
compound,
and your
yeah,
kids. Imagine your kids doing this, and it's gonna get crazy.
exactly.
Be crazy, but the challenge is having people under, or your kids to continue your legacy. That's the hard part.
Right. It's. I mean, you said they were kind of going back the dream. Like, I think it's the mindset. Not only are you passing on, again, the tangibles, but if you can just foster this idea to make the next person better. And it starts with family, but it could be like, how do I leave my mark on the world? Like, I want to help my friends, my community, like,
Going forward in the next coming years, the topic of money is never going to go away. It's probably going to increase, if anything.
Never.
So even if you achieve generational wealth or not, doesn't really matter. If you try to pursue it, you're going to learn so much stuff along the way, like money mistakes they're going to make. Those are going to stick with you. And if you can just pass that on to your kids for them not to make, I already think, you want to back up your wisdom with experiences that you already had in your life. And I think that's so powerful compared to someone just speaking everything out of a theory. Right? We talked about in the retirement episode, like, here's some math. Math says that you should put in this much and you have X amount at the end of 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at reality and that's not true. I think those people that never pursue the generational wealth, they kind of lose the speaking privileges of living it firsthand, because theory is always more interesting and easy to talk about than actually living it.
Oh yeah.
And I think I think it's so powerful to pass down something like, hey, I didn't go out with my friends to this expensive vacation because I was grounded into what I believed, and then I invested it instead. And then, I think if you don't do that, it just sounds contradictory. Like if you never save for anything, then you're telling your kids like, hey, all this money in place.
There's also the saying like, do as I say, not as I do. So
Yeah.
telling you like I didn't do it, but I know what right looks like. But again, to your point, it's more powerful when it's like, hey, this is what I did, and I started to see it work or it worked, and I think if you build upon this, you can like you will also reap benefits, and you'll be able to like navigate life, and you don't have to repeat the same obstacles as me.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of like what you were saying too. When I think wealthy, the first thing definitely that comes to mind is money for sure. But like, I don't know, there's like an underlying essence of kind of like happiness, fulfillment, like just a wealthy lifestyle, like community. And I think these are all things you can pass down like fragments of. Like I obviously, like I would want to be healthy. Yes, maximize my lifespan and the health of my life, but also to pass down these habits and be able to speak to them accurately, like you're saying, like, hey, these are some things I did in my life that allowed me to healthier, that allowed me to stay more active, which in turn that allowed me to make this, more money. It's just like it's like rich to me is like, all right, just a lot of money, but wealthy is like a lot of maybe success, which again expands beyond finances.
Yeah, wealth is like a very tricky. Yeah, you can go the dictionary route, like, hey, this is what it says. But then, wealth it's just so much stuff. I would say someone's wealthy if they have just enough money to cover their living expenses to pursue their dream of doing whatever.
Right.
Like, and they're so happy doing it every single day. They have a great family support network, friends support network. I would say that's wealthy. And same thing on the super, sad billionaire that built a whole legacy for himself. I would also say he's wealthy. Maybe not on the inside, but he is wealthy. Yeah. He made a lot of money that he can't even spend it because he has so much money, right? So yeah, wealth is tricky.
Yeah, I think this is more elusive than like being rich. But again, these are all things that take like some entry level of thought or vision. And again, that can be assisted with a role model, like you physically seeing somebody present in your life. These conversations, the literature. I just think that's so important.
I don't think there's like, whether to go down this path or not, I don't think there's a downside into going down the, hey, I want to build a generational wealth path. Because looking at the investing side, you're putting in money, which means that's money that you could have spent for something else.
Correct.
Right. But if there's like a once in a lifetime opportunity for you to go do this, I don't know, this once in a lifetime thing, right? Maybe you go visit this exotic place with all your buddies, and you're gonna have a lifetime talking about the memories that you created there. Still, you can still go on it.
You can, yeah.
Right? Maybe you pause investments for a month or two.
Right.
But in the grand scheme of things, that's not going to change anything. As long as your regular habits are, still following the good principles. I mean, with all the extra money, like, what are you missing out? I mean, a couple extra beers at the bar. I go to the bar. I guess I'm the guy, but I go to the bar and then I order appetizer. That's pretty much the only thing I order for the rest of the night. Where my buddies, like, they buy the beers like $8 a cup or something.
Yeah.
And you get a tip. and that's pretty much $10 plus per drink,
Yeah.
and they're drinking like 4 or 5 a night.
Right.
It adds up, and plus the
Significant.
taxi ride home, right? And so I don't drink, so I can drive up in my car, still hang out, and I mean, if you have the wrong group of friends, they're gonna call you cheap and whatever. But then if you're with your day one
yeah.
homies, like
Yeah.
they're not gonna care.
Yeah. What? So let me like, why don't you drink?
Well, so being drunk is fun, but then I don't like drinking.
Sure.
Like people just crack open a beer and they're like, "Oh, this tastes so good." I'm like, I don't understand. I don't understand it. Like I've been drinking for a very long time now, but it's never to taste a taste.
Right.
It's for me to get drunk.
Right.
Not so. I don't know. I don't like drinking because one is it's very expensive. I'm an upgoing person. What is it?
I'll go.
Outgoing.
Yeah.
I'm an outgoing person, and yes, I can turn it up more when I'm drunk.
Yeah.
But then I'm still a happy,
Right.
a good vibes guy when I'm sober.
Yeah.
So I don't see the need to drink like that. Sometimes it's fun.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I would personally I would never be an alcoholic. I just don't understand. I don't like alcohol.
And I mean, right. That's fair. And you're also not using it as like. So I would argue probably alcoholics don't like alcohol, but it's an escape from something. So you also don't have that escape. But I asked because I think it's easier for someone like you to make that decision to not drink because you have a little more clarity, I would argue. Maybe that's clarity in yourself. Maybe that's clarity in your purpose. But again, I think it all can be tied in generational wealth, right? Lofty concept, something that takes a lifetime for most to achieve. And it's like, when I peel back the onion and, hey, I don't drink, it's like, okay, why don't you drink? This is the reason you don't drink. I'm sensing, again, you have clarity in who you are, clarity in where you're trying to go. Okay, how did you get that clarity? Through experiences and through, again, conversation, through reading. And I think you being a person that has designated wickets you want to hit in life and things you want to do, and realizing that drinking takes away from that, i.e. making you feel crappy, i.e. it's costly. Like, it's easier for you to give that up. But again, somebody doesn't get to that point unless you are doing all these things. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but are doing some of these things we talked about. And one thing we didn't talk about is being able to kind of project to your thought and project your mind, which again stems from all these like root causes that we talked about. And again, is it easier for some people to project out and be a visionary and think big based on how they grew up? Absolutely. However, I think it is possible for everybody, but I will acknowledge that it's easier for some than others.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And, we talk a lot about mindset and a bunch of different things, but specifically this topic of generational wealth. And I think being short-sighted can inhibit the pursuit of, I don't want to say generational wealth, but any long-term achievements that you're trying to pursue, because you're trapped in this narrative of not being able to think past this job or this decade or current circumstance. And yeah, again, I don't know if I'm speaking from a position of privilege, but it's just things to urge people and for people to think about. Like, even if it's not generational wealth, like I said, you have a lifetime achievement that you're trying to work towards, a goal, which we like to say, like we like to put habits in place to get to that end state, rather than just say like, hey, I want to do this thing at some random point in the future. But it takes you're not going to just wake up and be able to put your whole blueprint and plan, have the vision, have the plan. Like, it is going to take time, and there are going to be some things you're going to have to experience or navigate to get there. So I don't know. I guess I say all that to say, kind of use your story of not drinking and weave it into kind of motivation or maybe inspiration of, how people can cut out things or use things in their life to save money or leverage things differently. And you can start with that. Like, if you're like, hey, I only work this job, don't have time to work a side job, right? Which I think a lot of people can find time for. But all right, take what you do have and find ways to cut things out of what you already have to create more money. Vice, I'm going to maintain my lifestyle and I'm only going to do more to create more money, or you could do less to, I mean, it's not creating more money, but you know what I mean? Like manipulate the money that you already have coming in, just to kind of another way to look at it to get to the same end state, I think.
Oh no,
That was a
dude,
lot.
dude, that was a lot because it was good. I was listening. I was like, man, he is saying some preaching good stuff.
Yeah, it's just
But yeah, like more on the last piece of what you talked about. I also view it in, I think it was in the book Pillars of Wealth
close.
by David Green. That's a good read. Overall,
Cool.
I mean, it's focused in real estate, but then overall good personal finance book. But then yeah, you can. There's 3 ways to increase your, I don't know, I guess net worth. Net worth would kind of cover everything. But offense is you go getting a pay raise.
Yep.
You grinding just more hours. That's the, you go get more money.
Yeah.
That's the offense side. And you talked about, which everyone can do, is cut down on the unnecessary stuff. I'm not saying cut down on shelter or food,
Right.
but
Hit it.
you may not need to live in a $2,500 apartment building that's super nice. Maybe you're fine with that $1,700 one.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you have to commute 10 more minutes to work. But then 10 more minutes to work, it's not going to, it's worth the trade, depending for most people. Not everyone, for most people. So that's defense. And the last thing is, I forgot what he said.
It was offense, defense, and wasn't like investing?
Investing. Okay, investing.
Yeah.
I was thinking special teams because like football. But,
not special teams.
But investing, and then, you can get a 7% return or a 0% return if you're just holding cash.
Right.
Or, and vice, if you were able to get 12% return, you're going to have more money coming in that way. But I think that's more of that becomes higher strategy, and I think people focus on that too heavily.
Yeah.
And then where people need to focus on, if you're getting started, is make more money. Don't fall into lifestyle, like inflation, or lifestyle creep, I guess.
Lifestyle creep, I think, yeah.
Yeah. And then just cut down on where you don't have to, cut down on enough stuff to find just comfort. And like, if you take $500 from your paycheck, you're not going to feel a thing. Right? That's where I think everyone should be able to get to, starting from high school. And maybe, yes, some people set themselves back with stupid purchases.
Right.
Like bad car loans, something that they didn't need. Like a lot of credit card debt, a lot of personal debt, student loans that you didn't need to get a degree for. But without, that's case by case for everyone. But overall majority, make more money, cut down on spending, you're going to be good.
Yeah. And please, for everybody, understand, like, I get life happens. Like, there's going to be like, you might have to take care of your mom for 2 years. You might have your car get stolen. Like, we don't talk about those things because, like, life happens, that's implied. But these little nuggets that we're talking about can pretty much be introduced across the board. Again, it's going to look different for different people, whether you're saving $5 a week or $200 a month. But the point is, you can do something. Pursuit for everybody may not want generational wealth, but I find it hard to believe that everybody doesn't want to be like wealthier, like at its simplest form. So I guess with that after like talking about all this, if you what do you think is the biggest, like I don't even know number one, but like for you, what do you think is the biggest barrier to somebody getting generational wealth, or maybe starting the process of pursuing generational wealth?
Man, I think you said the biggest, right?
The biggest, but yeah.
Man, I feel like I'm gonna get a little bit of hate, but that's fine.
It's hard to quantify, but yeah. Right.
I think the biggest barrier to people attaining generational wealth, whatever that means for you.
Exactly, yeah.
I think it's ego. Is basically for you to put yourself in a circumstance, in a perspective, like, hey, I am here to help out other people. right? I think that's just the overall great thing for people to, live by.
Okay.
And maybe you kind of weigh out like, hey, is this one night with my friends going to impact my future kids? Probably not, right? Very minimal that'll do.
Right.
But then it's more on the habit thing, right? If you're able to control your ego and be more humble, so hey, like I don't need to take this grand vacation every 3 months because I deserve it from work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude, I'm just grinding. I don't need to take like my two days off on Saturday, Sunday is enough for me.
Yeah.
And just keep grinding, because I think it's powerful when you can, I think I talked about it in the beginning too, but when you work for something so you can help out others, regardless if it's your family or strangers or whatever the cause may be, I think that's just more powerful and gives the human more of a purpose to just keep going. Because the best thing is to, regardless of any tactic, if you can, whatever you can stick to for a long period of time,
Yeah.
that's the best tactic.
Ooh.
So if you can save $200 a month comfortably without jeopardizing your life, like that's the best strategy. And then put that $200 into whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And if you're thinking about money, like you will make more money. I don't know how, but it'll come to you.
That manifestation.
Because we all think differently. But like for me, like I was in the Navy. That's kind of like a full-time thing, right?
Yeah.
Like you're
Very
outside of your working hours, you're kind of like ingrained in the system. So when I got out, like even though I'm working the same, I'm working less because Navy on paper, it's like supposed to be 40 hours a week, I think, but that's not. You know how that goes. You're probably
right. Well, yeah.
60 to 80 on a realistic schedule. But getting out of the Navy and then joining a company where the expected work hours is 40 hours a week, I would say a lot of people are in the same boat. And I found my means to ask for the promotion, not the pay raises, whatever you need to get more money. And outside of the 40 hours, regardless of whatever that's happening in your life, I would say you have time to go make more money on the side.
Okay.
Including your entertainment, including your guilty pleasures, including, the Friday night beers with the buds.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
So, and to that last point, like, I definitely been finding myself like at home, just like on my phone. It's like, dang, 10 minutes went by. Like, there's ways to streamline. But it's interesting because, right, the answer to the question I said, what's the biggest thing? It's prohibiting people from getting generational wealth. So more specifically, though, pursuing it even. And you said ego, which is like a facet of the mind, how you think. My answer would also be kind of like realization and mindset, which is like one, realizing that you can be a part of this group of people too. I think a lot of people, it's not talked about, and this is where I would rebel against. It's like maybe overrated, or it's only for a certain population of people. And again, I would rebel against that because I think everybody can get there. And it looks different for everybody. It's not one state of being. Like your generational wealth can look different from somebody else's. So for me, it's the realization, and then we've been hinting on the whole time, or plain out said, the mindset shift and how you approach this. Because what's funny? I think like generational wealth is a financial topic, and we didn't talk about excessive debt or debt culture or all the analytics that could go in behind like planning for generational wealth and like mapping net worth. It's really just how to get out of your own way, kind of like habit building. We use very little numbers. You know what I mean? It's just funny for a financial topic. So
that's so, you put like everywhere. Like I was thinking all these like little tiny bubbles, thought bubbles, and you kind of put it together and put it nicely formatted.
Yang, bro.
But that's crazy because that's the similar realizations I had, and I would say I was in a very fortunate place. By luck, I was able to read the self-realization that I could do this was through Rich Dad Poor Dad. It doesn't have to be through Rich Dad Poor Dad, but it could be through anything.
That was
But for me, I was able to discover that at age 22, which I would say that's a blessing on its own. But like in social media today, you can literally go figure that out in 16 or even earlier, 18, whatever the age is. But it's not going to hit you hard probably until after 18 because you're probably not dealing with finances on your own yet.
Exactly.
But then when the bills start coming, your head starts turning, right? And it was crazy because before, I'm not even, like, no joke, probably 2 months before I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I know exactly when I read Rich Poor Dad. It was October of 2018. But before October, because I got in the Navy in June. So between
2018?
June, June
17, yeah.
So June and October, that covers 4 months. In the middle, I was like, I think it'll be okay if I just do 30 years in the Navy, and I'll be making some in my twilight years of my career. I'll be making upper 100s. Like that'd be a cushy life, and then have 2.1 kids. That's the 2.1 is a joke, but have 2 or 3 kids, and then be happy. That's like a very mediocre. I was like, who am I to think that I can get all this money? I think that was like my humble side. But then even while so I was like humble in a different way. But when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I'm like, holy crap! Like that's
that realization and then the mindset shift.
I think it hit because I recommended Rich Dad Poor Dad to other people, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, what did you think? They were like, oh, it was okay. Whatever. I'm like, what do you mean it was okay? Like this was life changing for me, Yeah. But then I think I read it at a very powerful, pivotal years in my life, where literally a month before I was thinking, hey, I'll just play the rat race for the next 30 years.
That's how bro. That's the exposure.
Yeah.
That's like, and that's what you know what I mean? Like, that's what seemed normal or right.
Attainable, yeah.
That's what Rebel
again.
Like, it's just that zombie narrative of like,
dude, yes.
Yeah.
And literally my psyche couldn't think outside of that.
Yes.
And literally reading a book, you can finish it in 1 weekend, literally.
Sure.
Reading that, I'm like, oh my God. My initial goal was to retire by age. I forgot the number at this point, because right now I don't want to even retire, but it gave me a dream and a goalpost to shoot for, which was, hey, I want to retire by this day. So if I need to do that, what do I need to do? Okay, I need to get this much return, realistic, like a 10% return is the most realistic and average. So based on that, how much do I need to get? How much do I need to invest? And everything else just kind of happens.
Then you got into the numbers,
yeah. Because that journey is different for everyone. There's so much money to be made in all sectors. Because right, for my W-2, so my personal way of building wealth is through real estate. But I still have stocks, crypto, holding a lot in the bank. But the way of me making my active income is through, I'm engineering the semiconductor field. But before that, fortunately I had a lot of options coming out of the Navy, like, hey, which jobs I want to take.
Right.
And one of the jobs I took was like a assistant general manager in training to be a general manager for the retail business. Right. So this one was a particular gas station chain. And that's like, you think about it, it's not like you go, to the title, right? Like, oh, I work here. I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of like a lower end job. As
honest work, though.
Yeah. But then when you look at the numbers, I'm like, holy crap, they're making so much freaking money.
Yeah.
And I just kind of opened my eyes to whatever the sector is, there's money to be made. Whatever your talent is, there's going to be money to be made. You just have to like think about the risk and take risks and play the long game. And yeah, I just kind of that was like a very intriguing moment to understand that you can make money at anything.
Yeah.
So that's why I say once you get past the dream state, anything goes. Just follow the basic principles. I would say, no dumb debt. A smart debt would be something that actually makes you money. But then you gotta understand that comes with risk. But that's a trade-off that you gotta make.
Yeah.
And I think you're good.
Dude, I love it. Robert Kiyosaki would be proud.
I don't, it's like I said, the key is one way, Dave Ramsey's another way. I don't agree 100% with either of them.
Right.
I'm sort of in the middle, and I mean,
But that's the beauty of it. Gathering different opinions, varying opinions, and kind of generating your own along the way. And that's like the process you talked about, like everybody's journey. That's that's part of why it's different. Yeah, I think it's dope.
Yeah. I want to all right. So I got 2 questions.
Okay.
Why do you want to build generational wealth? And then after, I want to ask you, what ways are you doing it personally?
Okay. So
from your,
I mean, I kind of already touched on why. This is a quick answer for me. Is really to extend my lineage and legacy beyond just physically, like extend it, but also better it. Because I mean, I can pretty much extend it by having kids, but how do I better it? And then to answer your second question, like what am I doing for it? One thing we also didn't talk about under the umbrella of generational wealth was diversifying revenue streams, which kind of goes into, right, you'll have your job, your 9 to 5, whatever you work, the main means your money, but we talked about, I guess we just didn't use the term, we talked about other ways like you can make money. So for me, it's, in a nutshell, without getting specific, it's pretty much diversifying revenue streams, right? Like we're both in real estate, you more so than I, but real estate and investing, but looking for, even within investing, looking for ways to diversify investing as well. So I'm a big proponent of like spreading your money out. So if any one sector or pocket or whatever gets hit, you have other money elsewhere that is also growing, and it's not like you're putting all your eggs in one basket, figuratively speaking. I think what I want to grow it the most in is in real estate, because I have a lot of similar beliefs in that market that you do. Yeah, but even again, without even getting that specific, I think for me it's just diversifying it, and then again, like finding out what works for you, finding out what fits your lifestyle, finding out what interests you, and diving into that. Which I feel like I'm saying similar to what you said now in different words, but yeah, finding out what works for you.
Okay, so I'm understanding your way of diversification as not just within stocks, because a lot of people say diversification is like, oh, like, hey, invest in multiple different sectors, but you're talking about diversification within stocks, real estate,
different markets,
your active job, your side hustle.
Yeah.
Okay, just ways to bring in money overall.
Yes, different, yes, and that's it. And then
it's gonna, like, it may start off small, but then as the years get,
it started, like you said, it's a long game. Yeah.
I think that's the key. Like, you gotta enjoy your life. You gotta love. You gotta have passion in what you do to be able to last the time. Because if you get bored of it, it doesn't mean it literally doesn't mean, if you don't make it to the goal, it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
I don't say mean anything, but like, you can have one tragic event that can wipe everything out based on your decision, that if you're burnt out or whatever. So I'm going to go back to what I was saying. Like, of course, Jeff Bezos is going to have more money that he's going to pass down to his people, right?
Like, I'm not, he's not my, like, he's to aspire to, you know what I mean? Like, exactly.
So, but then if you can save $300 a month and that works for you, that's the right tactic. Stick to it, dude.
Yeah.
And I guarantee if you keep thinking about it, keep talking about it, you're gonna get more ways to make money.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah,
just keeping the habit of putting money aside every single paycheck, and then, I mean, your kids, your grandkids is gonna be so fortunate because of the actions that you took, and
they're gonna be more well off. Yeah,
dude, I was thinking, it's like, even if my kids took all this stuff for granted, I'd be like, for me, it'll be like my personal
True.
satisfaction. It's like, hey, you know what? I did the right thing.
Right. Even if they blow it, even if they don't listen to you, it's like, you did your piece. You tried. You at least set them up on what they do with it from there. It's, you can't control what they do, but exactly, you get that personal satisfaction, and you're maximizing your chances to alter the course of your family, or help your kids, whatever it may be. Yeah. Dang, dude, I think this was a juicy one. This was good.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, and hopefully, if one person is like, you know what, I think I'm gonna go down the path, because I think once you get inside, it's like a whole rabbit hole.
Yeah. Yeah. And you talked about making it. I don't even think you were talking about this specifically. You're just talking about like have fun in life, but find ways to make it fun, or make like a game if you have to. Have somebody you can talk about it with. For me, like, you are that somebody I can like bounce ideas off of, or just kind of have fun with it, and it starts to gain momentum, and naturally like kind of takes its own course. Yeah, man. All right, that was good. I feel good. Whoever's listening was able to get something from it. Whether it's reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, or whether it's way just something else to think about, shifting the mindset. Maybe you'll approach something different, like next week, like, okay, I'm gonna, I don't know, put my money here, or like I said, it could literally just be planting a thought in your head. I'll take it. We enjoy it, and we hope you do too. That's all we got for you for this week. Catch you next time.